Great job, thank you. Okay, it's Good Friday, let's be nice. Okay, let's be real nice. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. President. Can you clarify a little bit what the U.S. offered to Mexico in order to agree to that oil
Yeah.
deal? And then also go into detail about what you spoke about on oil with President Putin this morning.
So all of the OPEC nations met, and others, and they're all agreeing to cut back because there's a tremendous glut. We're filling up our strategic reserves. We don't even have room to store it. In fact, they're using ships to store oil. There's never been anything like this. It was being overproduced to start off with, and then you had the virus, and that took off 40% right there. So there's a glut of oil like nobody's ever seen before. It's good in many ways, and depending on where you are, who you are, it's bad. We have a tremendous energy business with hundreds of thousands of jobs. We're doing great. Number one in the world. So they all got together, and they said, we're going to cut it because we have to get rid of this tremendous supply. Now, the good news is gasoline prices, I'm seeing 90 cents, 85 cents in different parts of the country a gallon. Nobody's ever seen that. I guess you have to go back to the 1950s where they had the big, large dollar bills. Remember? You don't remember. You're too young. But the fact that you have to go back a long ways to see it. So there's some good. The airlines are trying to come back. Having low fuel costs is good for them, and other reasons. Steel manufacturing, but a lot of the steel goes to building what we do for the oil and engineering firms. So, you know, that's a double-edged sword. But we want to keep our energy. We want to remain independent. We will remain independent, I think, regardless. But we want to get rid of this tremendous overflow. There's no place to even store it. So the OPEC nations met. They've been meeting. And, you know, I've hated OPEC over the years, absolutely hated them. But obviously it broke down. And we potentially have years' worth of supply, a long time before it ever can catch up, even if they do reduce it. And they agreed, but Mexico didn't agree. It was one of the few countries that didn't agree. This is OPEC plus. These are OPEC plus countries outside, you understand?
Yes.
And Mexico didn't agree. And I understand the president very well. He has a level when he came in, and he wanted to keep it at that level. Oil is important for Mexico. The problem is, and I explained it very strongly, you know, you're going to be selling it for $5 or $10 a barrel, so in the end it's bad. But he did have some political difficulty with it, frankly, and I understand that too. And it's a small amount for us. It's a large amount for Mexico, but it's a very small amount for the United States, being the biggest producer. So I agreed to pick up some of the slack. So he was going to reduce it by 100,000 barrels, reduce his output by 100,000 barrels. And I was going to pick up the slack, and they would make it up to us at a later date. They would make up what we're doing at a later date. It could be in a different form. And I don't know whether or not that's going to be, for Mexico it was acceptable. I don't know whether or not that's going to be acceptable to the other oil-producing nations. We'll find out. But it's something that would certainly be acceptable to me to get it over the back. So Mexico is going to reduce by 100,000 barrels. And that would mean that they're 250 to 300 barrels short. We'd make up the difference. They would reimburse us at a later date. Okay?
You mean
Pretty
make up the
simple.
difference by cutting U.S. production?
By cutting some U.S. production. Now, the U.S. production's already been cut because we're a market-driven economy, and oil is very market-driven. They've been cutting oil all over the place. We're cutting it back. And what does it mean, really? It means we have it in the ground, we can use it. Now, we have a lot of ground with a lot of oil in it. I think we're number one in that, too. We're probably number one, especially with ANWR. As you know, I got ANWR approved in Alaska. That's one of the biggest finds anywhere in the world. So when you add it all up, I think we're probably number one, even in what we have under. We're very lucky. We grew up in a land that was rich in a lot of ways, but it's also rich because it has a lot of oil underneath, oil and gas. And as you know, natural gas, LNG, is all over the country now at a very low price. And our carbon, our atmosphere, the level of environmental cleanliness is at its all-time best right now, all-time best, because we are using a lot of natural gas. But we have many forms of energy, including some of the newer forms that people want to see us go to. We have a lot of different forms of energy. We're number one in the world. We want to keep it that way. So we're helping Mexico out. We will be reimbursed in a form sometime in the future.
Mr. President, I want to ask you about the